and it's 8 o'clock and we start a proper. So again, really warm welcome to everyone to Happy Life Habits Inspiration Point podcast, series 2. And so happy to see all of you here and join us. Just a few ground rules. The session is going to be recorded. I'd ask you to keep your mobiles on silent for the duration. If you can stay on mute, that would be great, especially during the interview. And during the interview, if you keep your videos off, that'd be great. At this moment in time, you can have your videos on. And when we come to the Q&A, you can switch your videos on and come off mute and ask a few questions. And you can also ask questions via the chat, and we will either take them during the session or more likely towards the end of the session. We'll take those. And we're aiming to finish around 9 o'clock, give or take a couple of minutes here and there. That's the plan. As an introduction, I'm Shady Shah. I'm a happiness coach trained in the science of happiness, and through Happy Life Habits, positively impacting people's happiness and well-being levels. And we do this through talks, workshops, training courses, and articles in a variety of other ways. Today is Holocaust Memorial Day. Yesterday was India's Republic Day. Today is Holocaust Memorial Day, where we take a moment to think about the Holocaust that happened during World War II. And in regards to that, I just want to share one little thing, which is Viktor Frankl, many of you may have heard of. He's written a book called Man's Search for Meaning. He was in Auschwitz. He was in the camps. I think it was Auschwitz. He was in the concentration camps, and his family had been taken away from him. His family had been killed. He'd been treated very badly, and he shares some of this, of the way he was treated and other people were treated in the book Man's Search for Meaning. But one of the things that he did share was, they could take everything away from him, but they couldn't take away what was going on inside his head. They couldn't take away that. And what he says and what he shared is, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our freedom and our power to choose our response. So to choose our response, not to react. And it's in those choices lie our growth and our freedom and our happiness. So that space between something happening and us responding is the space that we have, where our freedom, our happiness, and our growth lies. So that's something for us to just bear in mind. And everyone who's takes part in Inspiration Point has a story to share where there's been a stimulus, it's been a challenge, been a turning point, and they've chosen a response. They've made choices, and that's what we will listen to and share during these sessions. So Inspiration Point, it's inspiring, positive, extraordinary people sharing their journey, their challenge, is turning points, daily habits, and learning through personal development, happiness, and spirituality. So it's there for us to learn from, it's there to inspire us, and it's there for us to also relate to our own situations and be in a position to be more uplifted. And this hour is focused on positivity, inspiration, and happiness. Some of the questions we ask, and it's the same 10 questions we ask all of our episode interviewees, but we might delve into a few more questions on the back of these is, what makes you happy? What currently inspires you? What's your journey been? What are some of your challenges and turning points? Some of your daily habits and routines? Some of your favorite quotes? And as we ask these questions and Mel answers, you can be thinking about what your answers are to these as well. I'm really pleased to say that all of Series 2 has been sponsored by Balance Consultancy. They're professional will writers and lasting powers of attorney. And our friend Shandip is the principal of Balance Consultancy. He joins us today, and he's joined us for most of Series 1, and in fact was on one of the episodes in Series 1. So you can catch that on the website and listen to that. And he will share a few words at the end of the session too. So Inspiration Point, 6 episodes we have in this series. Today we have Mel Byron, confident comedian. Next week we have Lisa Moore, marathon mindset. The week after, we have Neeraj Shah, A Stroke of Genius. In the fourth week, we have Selena Morgan-Gale, Exalted Mediator. In the fifth week, we have Dr. Ajay Shah, a superhero doctor. He's doing some fantastic work up in Birmingham in helping to give the vaccinations for COVID, but his journey is wonderful to hear. And then in the sixth episode, we have Nina Joshi Ramsey, Lifeliner Extended, and she's on the call with us today as well.
Oh, excellent.
And she actually knows Mel when
Yes.
Nina had done some stand-up comedy. So I didn't know this. So our first and our last episode interviews have a connection, and we all will have a connection together. What's amazing is, so these are going to be running every week for the next 6 weeks. And just today, 2 hours ago, we have heard that the lockdown in the UK, in England, is carrying on at least till the 8th of March. So that's the next 6 weeks. So during this lockdown, we are here serving you every week with inspiration points. So please, please, please do join us and partake in this with us. So how to introduce Mel? So Mel is a trainer, a stand-up comedian who passionately believes in joy, confidence, and kindness. And I think this is where both of us have had a lot of resonance in the work we've been doing and articles we've been writing, and seeing us real good connection there. And she believes that these are the key to success in work and in life. She's a coach in confident speaking and in leadership skills, so working in the corporate sector, helping people in that arena. She's been in book publishing for over 20 years. She's witnessed both good and bad leadership in those arenas, and will share some of that with us. And her mission is to help others who are unhappy in their work experience to be happier. She's written and performed a one-woman comedy show and about the inequities in the modern workplace, and she shared this at various festivals, including the Edinburgh Fringe in 2017 and 2018. Unfortunately, 2020 and 2021 are up in the air due to obvious reasons, but she's still writing, and she's working on a book as well, and she loves old movies and rainy days. So that's our introduction to Mel. So I will ask you all now, if you are, please just switch off your videos. If you switch your Zoom view to say speaker view, then you will be able to see Mel and myself, and I will just stop the screen share so it's nice and big and visible. And we will start with our first question. And this is actually, let me just put it on to speaker view as well. Brilliant. So actually, even before the first question, Mel, a really warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us and being our first episode of the series.
I know, it's quite exciting. I feel quite pioneering because I'm the first person of the new series. So thank you very much. Thank you for asking me. Thank you for having me. Really looking forward to it.
Brilliant. Thank you. And just for everyone else's benefit, all the people who come on the episodes, we share this 1 hour with them, but I've already shared more than an hour with them and really enjoyed the conversations that we've had. So we'll be sharing some of those experiences here, and all of us partaking in listening some of those insights and journeys. So Mel, what makes you happy?
Well, you covered some of it, which was my old movies. I don't know if you can see I'm bathed in yellow glow, but all the walls in this room are covered with old movie posters. Some are actually really properly old and quite valuable. So they're the ones that are out of the sun. And yeah, the rainy day thing, you mentioned that, and I know it's a bit odd, and I don't know where it came from. But sometimes if I open the curtains in the morning or I look out the window and I see rain, not pouring with rain, but just a kind of drizzle, I think, oh, I want to go out. And I don't know what it is. I find it quite cleansing. I think that's why I find it cleansing. Possibly it's also because when I know it's raining, not many other people are around, so I get the space to myself. But I love a rainy day. But on a kind of broader, more sort of spiritual level, I think what really makes me happy is doing things that have meaning. And before we came on, I was just saying to you, I've been really busy this week, but all with really interesting, fulfilling things. So, on my 0 to 10, I'm really high. I'm a good 8.5, and because I've been doing fulfilling things, and that's been just so great. It's been great.
Fantastic. And that's, you've touched upon that, doing fulfilling things and having meaning and purpose are ingredients to our happiness. But you mentioned the old movies. What genres? Because from what years are the old movies that you enjoy?
Mainly, I would say my beginning and end, my cutoff is from roughly 1930 to roughly 1960. Roughly, a bit either side. Basically, if it was made after I was born, not too interested. But comedy, romance, film noir, less interested in war and westerns, really. They tend to kind of I think it's also because a lot of them don't have any women in them, and I like a kind of mixture, and the story tends to be quite male dominated, but definitely romance, film noir, a good thriller, good drama. Love all of them.
Fantastic. And we'll touch upon the film stuff more so because that plays an important aspect in your life. So, what are you currently doing that inspires you?
Oh gosh, do you know, I thought, because we last spoke before the beginning of January, and I thought, oh, January is going to be ever so quiet. And then suddenly things started coming in. And the project I was working on today was writing a training manual. And that's been just a wonderful thing to do, because we were supposed to deliver this training actually in prisons to prisoners, but we haven't been able to do it. We did one last February. That was the last one. We couldn't do it since then. And so the decision was, and the budget had been kind of made, I'm doing it through a charity, that we should deliver it as a workbook. So I've been working on that most of the day, and it's been just great, because everything I do is about confidence and feeling happy in yourself. And here we are giving people, I hope, a second chance, another bite of the cherry, by providing them with this material that helps them to learn how to speak more confidently, which spills out into other areas of life. So that was really inspiring. I've really enjoyed doing that. And the other thing I've been working on is doing I'm really trying to promote more morale boosting things for, say, the corporate sector, because I've been really working on training. But you know what, I mean, you're talking about March the 8th only being 6 weeks away. We are very soon coming up to a period where some people who work together, like whole teams, haven't seen each other for a year. And some people who got jobs since March the 23rd or whatever haven't even met the people that they work with. So what I'm trying to work on is sort of, through the medium of laughter, things we can offer people that will be a morale boost. Now, I've already got a couple of things booked in, like just teams getting together. We're going to do one at the beginning of February with a bunch of accountants, because they're all working flat out right now up to January 31st. So I can't remember what date it is. The first week of February, they've booked us, me and a couple of comedy friends, and we're going to entertain them. It's like, that's their gift from their company for working so hard. And it's going to be great. It's going to be great. And that's what I want to work more on. And if you'd asked me a year ago if I would be doing this, I would have said, no, why would I do that? But right now, I think lovely unifying things that bring people together. Isn't that wonderful? If we can do that, imagine if we'd had lockdown 30 years ago. Horrible. So yeah, so those are the things I've been working on this week, and it's been fantastic. Really, really good.
No, that's brilliant. And I think some of the things that you're doing are amazing and much needed there. And similarly, the idea with Inspiration Point is similar of that sense of connection and bring people together and have at least that dose of happiness or positivity
totally,
for us to focus on, especially with so much negativity out there.
I mean, even if you're feeling a bit, 2 or 3, or maybe 1 on the scale. You know, if somebody can come in and interrupt that for an hour and just bring some joy, why not? Why, you know, and even if it's a little pattern interrupter, then I think, you know, then you kind of start to get into, I guess, what you would call the habit. You know, if we keep interrupting the patterns, then, you know, eventually we're like, oh, actually, we're lifting people up in a sort of more permanent sense. And that's what I really, really want to do. We did, just before Christmas, I did a quiz for people who love old movies, and we did the quiz, a couple of friends and I, and we did the quiz, and then we told everybody to open up their mics, and we chatted for as long as we quizzed, because people wanted to chat. People were like, I'm stuck at home on my own, and here I am with a bunch of people who love what I love, and I was kind of annoyed with myself for not thinking of doing the quiz earlier, but we're going to do it again and again and make it more of a social thing. Just interrupting their day with a couple of hours of, yeah, as we're doing tonight, you know, interrupting people's day with some fun.
Fantastic. And when we last spoke, you mentioned you're working on writing a book as well, correct?
Yes. So the book came from the show that I did. So given that I did the show first in 2017, as you can see, the gestation of the book has been slightly painful. But a book is a wonderful thing, because it's a great thing you can always have on the back burner. You know, whenever anything comes in, the book goes on the back burner. And so basically it takes the themes of the show, which was called karoshi, which is Japanese for death by overwork. But I used it as a kind of metaphor for the little death. You know, when you go to work and a little bit of you dies inside. Anybody who's worked in the corporate sector will know what I mean. And so the book takes and extends some of the themes. And whereas in a 1-hour show, we could have a laugh and it was cathartic, like we couldn't really come up with any solutions. So in the book, what I'm trying to do is you know, the last part, come up with solutions and actual helpful advice for people. So that's my, I've got to get on with that this year.
Fantastic. And when it's ready to launch, let us know and we can help.
Oh my goodness, I will be shouting from the hilltops if I get this finished this year.
Fantastic. Good. So that's great. So it's brought us to you writing a book. It's brought us to you doing training in leadership and confident speaking, and having done being a stand-up comedian. What's your journey been? What have been some of your challenges and major turning points?
It's been because I've really come to most of what I'm doing now quite recently. So everything else has been leading up to that. So I mean, just to give you background, I studied many years ago, I studied languages at university, and I studied Chinese and German. So I guess communication was always in my mind, although I have to say my Chinese is very, very, very rusty these days. And I was a very fortunate person, because I am just old enough to have got a full grant to study. It didn't cost me any money whatsoever. I'm just old enough, like literally the last year I was studying, they started to phase in student loans. So how lucky was I? So that's been a wonderful, and that really was, I think, perhaps one of the most amazing things, that I could have this wonderful education for free. I could travel to China for free, you know, because it was part of my course. So that was a wonderful thing. And then I kind of didn't know what I wanted to do, and I thought maybe I'd do comedy. So I dabbled a bit. Then I got a nice job in publishing, and I thought, oh, that's nice. And because of that job, I got to travel. Again, that's nice. But over the years, and I think we've all been there, you know, what starts as joy and that wonderful feeling of, look at me, I've got this, I'm on an upward path, to like, oh, I can't do this anymore. And it's mainly people, you know. People always say, you know, when they give the leaving speech at work, people always say, oh, well, I'm going to miss most of the people. It's all about the people. It is all about the people, for good and for bad. And so when I left my last full-time job, it was really like 2 jobs in a row where there had been really poor management, and I needed to go. Otherwise, you know, it just grinds you down. You forget who you are. And so I left, and then I thought, I don't know what to do now, but I want to help people who also don't know who they are anymore. And then I came up with this idea for the show, and that kind of led me back into comedy, which I'd done in my 20s. So yeah, so kind of being miserable at work led me back onto this wonderful world, which has changed a lot, I have to say, since the 90s. But it's been it's been interesting, because it's been interesting to do comedy in my 40s and 50s, kind of finding my tribe. And that's another thing, because now I know who my tribe is, and I'm kind of happy, so I do a lot of middle-aged comedy. Middle-aged women, they're my tribe.
So when we were chatting before, I did ask, would you be happy to share a snippet of some of the comedy work you've done? So,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a one-liner comedian. I mean, one of the very few one-liners I have, and I talk about, obviously, ladies of a certain age, about having love me. Oh, bless you, Nina. Nina says she loves my middle-aged comedy. Bless you, darling. And as I talk about having a mammogram, gentlemen, I don't know if you want to pause for you to Google that. And then I talk about, oh, don't worry, when you're 50, you get a mammogram, but when you're 100, you get a mammogram from the Queen. And of course, that joke presupposes that you understand what a telegram is. So I don't know if the Queen sends you a WhatsApp message. But a lot of the comedy I do, because I talk about being middle-aged, if I walk into a room and it's all 20 and 30 somethings, what I have to do is slightly pivot that, and then kind of self-deprecate myself and go, hey, look at me, I have to live in your world, and I don't understand what an emoji is, and I talk about, there's an emoji with the red cheeks, which I thought was the hot flush emoji. And so I'm kind of like, look, this is like your mum talking to you. So a lot of comedy is punching down on somebody, is kind of having a go at somebody. But if the person you're punching down on is yourself, but in the nicest possible way, it's a kind of benign way to kind of go, oh, look, silly me. Even if you exaggerate, because the whole of comedy is exaggerated. And if it isn't, it's not funny, because we've all seen, especially new comedians, punching down on themselves, self-deprecating, and it's actually like you feel really sorry for them, and you say, oh, please make it stop. It has to be funny, that's your one job.
Yes, awesome. So with that career in publishing, and then one or two trickier environments with the culture and the management, and then shifting away from that, that must have been quite a big step off, leaving that world and then moving on. So what kind of, I guess, thoughts and feelings did you have then, and what helped you move forward?
I mean, in a sense, it was, as for many people, it was a sense of this cannot go on. So it was, and that model you showed at the beginning about Viktor Frankl, it was me actually stopping and doing exactly that. Whereas often you're just kind of like, here's the stimulus, work is horrible, I'm reacting by being stressed, I'm being unhappy, I'm coming home being crabby with my husband, and I'm eating too much cake, and so that was me kind of actually making that conscious decision and go, hang on a minute, this cannot go on. I now need to react in a different way. How can I do that? And my reaction was, well, this isn't going to change. It's like what Maya Angelou says, if you can change something, change it. If you can't change yourself, and what I did was change my situation, so I got out, and I had spent a year kind of planning my exit, so like saving up money and just thinking about what I was going to do next. So it wasn't like I stropped out one day. I actually planned my exit. I cannot tell you the joy of walking into the office on that November morning with a letter in my, I thought I'd do it old school and type out an actual letter and handing it over. And I'd just been to Switzerland for a business trip. So I bought everybody in the office, there are only about 20 of us in this office, it wasn't huge, like the biggest pile of Swiss chocolate you've ever seen in your life, and put it all in the kitchen, poured it onto the table in the kitchen, so I could bring some joy to everybody else.
Yes.
And then went and handed in my notice and brought joy to myself. And it was a lovely moment, I tell you, but scary, because when I came back after, well, in January or whatever it was, after Christmas, when I didn't have to go to work, it was like,
Now what?
oops. But then I did take some part-time work, which was fine, and it was benign, and it was nice, and it was walkable from home, and that just gave me that little bit of support and that buffer whilst I wrote the show and did all the stuff. So yeah, I understand that for a lot of people it's not an option they have, and I was very lucky. I understand that, but the sheer joy of making that choice of going, this isn't good enough, I'm out of here. Lovely feeling.
Fantastic. And also with that decision to write a comedy show, had you written comedy shows before, and then writing something to go to a festival? What can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
I'd not written a full-length show before. I'd done stand-up, as I say, about 25 years before, but I'd not written a full-length show. So it was a kind of, the genesis of the show was very painful, but I was very fortunate. I had a very good director that I worked with, Chris Head, and he was just brilliant. And, there were days when I thought, any minute now I'm going to get an email from him going, do you know what? I don't think this is going to work. But he never, he was great. He saw that there was something in what I was doing, and got the best out of me, and I'm eternally grateful to him for the support and for not giving up. Even when there were days when I just thought, why am I doing this? And it was painful, but as he said to me at the time, he said, doing something like the Edinburgh Fringe is a process. So on day one, when you get there, that's still part of it. You haven't finished on your first day of your first show, but by 3 weeks of doing a show every single day, the show is much better than it was at the beginning, which is why I wanted to take it back the following year, because I thought, okay, now it's better. And I did it at other festivals. So that first Edinburgh was hard, but it set me up for doing others. And I've got another show that's germinating, and was germinating for last Edinburgh, supposed to be germinating for this Edinburgh, but I feel it's not going to happen this year. I just say so. 2022, or we find a different way to do it, and maybe I do something on. Do you know, we've all had to do this, haven't we? We've all had to
adapt and be flexible.
Absolutely. So yeah, it was hard at first, but it's easier now. Now I understand structure and how it works better.
Awesome, thank you. So in terms of where you are now, what are some of your daily habits and routines that support you? What are some of the things you do on a regular basis, daily or
routine? It took me a while after the first lockdown to get into routine. And like many people, my sleep was all over the place, because I wasn't, because when you're not doing anything, you don't go to bed till 2 a.m, then you can't get up. Blah, blah. So I found in the end that I had to get into routine. And so I've got my diary. I'm one of those old-fashioned people, I've got it here, who uses tum-ti-tum, a paper diary. So my routine helps me, and my husband works broadly 9 to 5, so that kind of helps me as well, because I think, well, I'll try and keep in step with him. And obviously I do things in the evening, because being comedians, we always did things in the evenings, but having a routine has been really helpful. But also knowing that I can break that routine. The wonderful thing, I'm a great believer in the freedom within the frame. And I think, more companies should do this. Like, this is how we do things in my company. But hey, if you've got a better way to do it, or you can then take the frame and break it a little bit. So I have my routine, but I break it. I go, do you know what? It's 11 o'clock. I've done my first tasks for the day. I'm going to go for a walk, because it's 11 o'clock and it's nice outside. And I always like to leave myself some buffer time in the week. I'm a great believer again in buffer time. If I don't get it finished by Thursday as I plan, I can do it on Friday or Sunday morning or whatever. So have my frame, break it a little bit if I need to. And I think the organizations need to think about that in terms of leadership as well, and the way they express their values, because I'm very into values-based leadership,
Yeah.
which I think we all should be. Yeah, these are the values that we espouse. This is how things are done.
Yeah.
Like the last boss I had, the one that made me finally go, right, I'm out of here. He was kind of like, oh, you know, we're very loose, we're very free and easy here. So there was no frame. You come into work whenever you like. But then people would come in at 10:30 in the morning and he'd go, this isn't good enough. And I thought, well, you said it was okay. So why not say, okay, guys, everybody has to be in by 9:30, except if you have a problem. And then, of course, I'm going to be flexible. So that's, you know, that's the kind of things people need to do. And I think hopefully this situation we find ourselves in means that organizations are going to be much more into that now. And I was talking to, there was my sister recently who said her company had said, look, if you're homeschooling and you have to do your 8 hours on a Sunday, so be it. And that's what people need to get into.
Yeah, and I think it's that aspect of having a plan, but not being rigid on the plan, having flex in that plan, but that plan being, you know, that awareness of what are the priorities, and it being that aspect of, by this time frame is when we want the result to happen, and focusing on the result and not necessarily
exactly. Exactly. Not focusing on working 40 hours a week, but focusing on this outcome.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can't go off plan if you haven't got a plan.
Yes. Excellent. So okay, no, so that's good. There was one other. So you had walking in there, yeah, and you've got, you know, a working day type routine in there. But there's one which ties in with the movies again. So this one, you know, was, I think, a really intriguing one. You watch one movie, at least one movie each day.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit more about this.
Well, my second show, what I did at Edinburgh, was called Old Movies Saved My Life, and it is a kind of fun journey through old movies seen through the prism of my life. And one of the things I talk about is how the invention of the tablet is one of those things that changed my life, because it meant that I could have an old movie everywhere I go. So in the morning, I mean, usually in the morning now, I try to listen to Radio 3, you know, just something to calm me down. But if not, you know, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm halfway through a movie. I might be watching the movie whilst I'm brushing my teeth or something. So now I've got movies with me wherever I go. Sometimes, you know how some people listen to movies and listen to music in the background. Sometimes if I'm doing something where it's not creative, it's just, you know, tedium. It's just a routine thing. I might have a film on in the background, particularly if it's one that I know, because then I can just look across and know what's happening. So I have my tablet here on the desk, so that sometimes, and you just sometimes, again, buffer time, you just think, do you know what? I'm exhausted for this morning. I'll just have half an hour with Betty Davis or Cary Grant. I tell you, it just lifts the spirit.
Yes. And that's that aspect of, you know, making time and doing the things which bring us joy and happiness, and making sure, you know, we schedule those in and tap into those.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Brilliant. So what's one of your favorite quotes?
Well, one of my favorite quotes, and especially having reached my middle age and only sort of relatively recently finding my path, is George Eliot's quote, that it's never too late to be what you might have been. So, and I would encourage everybody to think that way. You know, don't, you know, I mean, back in the days, you know, people would think, oh, life's over when they were 40, you know, and life begins at 40 was a phrase people used ironically, and it actually, it can do. If anybody, to use an old movie analogy, if anybody's seen Brief Encounter, there's a bit where Celia Johnson says, oh, we're just two middle-aged people. She was 36 in that film, so we've moved on. Okay.
We had. I was in my mid-30s when I started my midlife crisis, and I'm still in it. so you can relate to that. Yeah. So actually, George Eliot, can you tell us a little bit more about George Eliot?
Well, George Eliot was a Victorian writer who was a woman who had to change her name to George Eliot to be taken seriously as a writer. Now I'm thinking, what was her name? Mary Ann Stevens? I think it was. Somebody in the chat box will confirm or correct that. But she had to change her name to George Eliot to be taken seriously as a writer. So thank God we have moved on from that as well.
Yeah, now we have, and to think, okay, the UK has had a female prime minister, the States, the vice president, a lot of firsts and a lot of ceilings being broken, quite rightly so. So
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. Did you just see somebody posted on LinkedIn today? I wasn't aware of this. Estonia is the first country to have both an elected woman president and an elected woman prime minister. How
Oh
cool
wow,
is that?
wonderful! Wow,
Mm.
brilliant. So, what is an achievement that you are most proud of?
It was Mary Ann Evans. Thank you, Nina. I knew it was Mary Ann. Thank you. See, this is why we rely on Nina for guidance in life. An achievement I'm proud. I mean, I'm proud of having done that very first Edinburgh show because that was part of my process. I wasn't ready to do it, but if you wait till you're ready, I'd still be waiting to do it now. So that's the thing I'm probably most proud of achieving, because it was the first time I really felt I'd created something existed because I did it, and that was such a lovely feeling. So I'm very, very pleased I did that, because now it's led to other things and hopefully will lead to a book sometime soon.
Yeah, and I think relating that, often people are waiting for, like you said, all the ducks to be lined up in a row and all the T's crossed and the I's dotted and everything to be perfect.
Yeah.
And waiting. Whereas from your experience and also my experience, especially over the last year, it's a case of going with that growth mindset and saying, okay, let's give it a go, let's see and adapt and experiment and learn from it and iterate, as you were saying, with your shows and with our work, and keep improving, on a regular basis and keep making it better.
Totally. I mean, my view on writing something like a one-woman show is, if you think it's finished, it's time to stop doing it. And I learned that very quickly, that if I think it's finished, if I think it's perfect, then I'm done with it now, because there's no joy, there's no immediacy, I'm done with it. And what is perfect anyway? And I always say this when I'm talking to people, when I'm with students and clients talking about public speaking, because I'll get it wrong and I'll say and things like that. And the world will not end. As I often say to people, if there's a guild of public speaking teachers, I'll get chucked out, because you go to a lot of the tutors say, oh, you mustn't say and you mustn't say and you mustn't hesitate. Of course, it's better if you don't. But how are you going to get better if you don't get up there and lose your place and stumble over your words? The audience is not going to go, right, I'm off now. Yeah, the audience wants you to succeed. And at an Edinburgh show, at a comedy night, I mean, comedy nights are different because alcohol is involved, and that changes people's behavior.
And that's on both sides, isn't it?
Sorry?
Alcohol's involved on both sides, by the performer and the audience.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, most performers I know don't drink beforehand, and I would always advise everybody not to. I think some pubs and venues hate us because, if we're doing a show and there might be 6 comedians on, we'll all go to the bar and have a lime and soda. Oh God, we're not going to get rich from the comedians. Let's hope the audience is spending money. But, once there's something that changes people's behavior, that's not great. But by and large, if you're in a theatre setting, or if you're on a stage talking about your topic, if people are listening to the podcast, people want people to be good and to be right and to be successful and give them something that they can think about. Nobody comes, oh, I hope nobody's come here tonight to go, oh good, I hope this podcast will be a car crash because that will make my night. I mean, that's kind of odd, but people forget that and think, oh, they're all going to hate me. They won't.
Yeah.
Don't be perfect. Don't try to be perfect. Try to be the best you can be today.
Excellent, lovely message. Great. Okay, we're coming towards the last few questions. What is one of your favorite books and why? And this one I think is quite interesting.
Okay. Oh God, I have lots and lots of favorite books. One of my favorite authors is Daniel Pink, who, if anybody's read him, I think, did we talk about this? You'd read it. His book Drive is fantastic about human motivation, and I love that book. And another book that I read of his more recently called To Sell is Human, in which he talks about us all being in the moving business, and we're all in the business of persuading people to do things. And because sales is like, ooh, dirty, we don't do sales. But it's quite interesting because even he, as this sort of eminent person, will say he spent a lot of his time trying to get people to do things. And so we're all selling something in a sense. You know, if I put on LinkedIn, hey guys, I'm on a podcast tonight, I'm selling the fact that I'm on it. You're selling the fact that this exists. So
Yes.
I found that really, really interesting. And I use a couple of the exercises he talks about from To Sell is Human sometimes with students to try and think about audience perspective, because that's I think they're quite interesting, quite powerful. So I highly recommend Daniel Pink to anyone and everyone.
That was one. And there was the Ken Robinson one, is the one you had
And
shared.
Ken Robinson. Sorry, yes, Ken
Yes.
Robinson. Do you know why I thought of Daniel Pink? Because I recommended it to somebody today. She was like, "Oh, I don't do sales training books," and I was like, "No, you really need to read Daniel Pink." Ken Robinson, The Element. I mean, sadly, we lost Sir Ken Robinson recently, but his whole idea is, if you find the thing you love and the thing you're good at, and the intersection of those, that's when you reach that element in your life, and that sort of state of happiness promotes. It's that, do you know, I posted something on LinkedIn about eudaimonia, that and hedonia. So eudaimonia, that sort of underlying feeling of happiness, which means that you'll still have the odd bad day, but by and large you're in your element, so you can deal with it. It's not life altering. And then hedonia, the other kind of happiness, also comes from the ancient Greeks, is that hedonistic thing of, oh, I'm gonna have a piece of chocolate or a drink of wine, and that's fine as long as life isn't all hedonic pleasures and addictions, because that's how addictions come about, because people are in an unhappy place and the only thing they can do to solve that is constant hedonic pleasures. And I've more than once posted photographs of my collection of shoes.
Yes.
So because by the time I left my full-time job, I owned a lot of shoes. My hedonic pleasure.
And that, thinking about it just now, I think the hedonic is probably more external focused, and eudaimonia is more internal focused, driven by meaning, purpose, fulfillment, and
Absolutely.
values. So yeah,
totally.
I can just relate to that. And the other thing you mentioned when we were speaking about this book by Sir Ken Robinson, The Element, was it's not how intelligent you are. It's the verses of how are you intelligent?
Yeah.
And that difference.
And I think, as I mentioned to you, he's if you look him up on YouTube, he has the most viewed TED talk of all time. So it's not how intelligent you are, how are you intelligent? And he's saying, if you're very good creatively rather than academically, and often those kids get dismissed, they're good at woodwork or they're good at sewing, oh, that's not good. Well, that's just a wrong approach. That's just their gift to the world. And that schools should actually encourage this. Not everybody is academic. You don't have to be. You can still have a happy, fulfilled, and satisfying life. You can still make money, by doing these creative things. And he talks about the dancer and choreographer Gillian Lynn, whose parents thought there was something wrong with her, and then the doctor said, well, clearly she wants to be a dancer. And again, she sadly left us, I think, last year, but she has a West End theatre named after her. So,
Wow.
so
Yes.
the right thing happened to her.
Yes. And I think some of what Ken is sharing resonates with the Einstein quote that if you judged a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it would spend its whole life thinking it was stupid. And it's that
Yes.
whole message that within each of us there is an intelligence or a genius that we're, it is our own and that we're good at, and it's recognizing that and not as our academic world does of judging everyone by the same calibrations.
Totally.
Yeah.
And undervaluing that as
Yeah.
and teacher, you sit at the back of the class because you're not very good at this academic-y thing. No.
Yeah. And for the audience, if you haven't seen the Ken Robinson TED Talk, highly recommend it. I've watched it dozens of times. It's the very first TED Talk I watched many years ago, and I just loved the Ken's 15, 20-minute talk. It gives you such an insight on his thinking and the education system, but his style of delivery with humor and other aspects. It's a real, a learning process there. It's no wonder it's one of the most watched because of all of these combinations, and it's what got me into knowing about Ken, but also loving and getting into watching a lot more TED Talks and stuff and sharing those. So
Good.
highly recommend.
I often use the video with students and clients when we're talking about presentations. We sometimes we'll critique different presenters, and I show this because he's so authentically him. It's what I call the pub test. If we went to the pub with Sir Ken, that is what we would get. This wonderful, warm, funny, humane man. Whereas sometimes you see talks and they're so polished to within an inch of their lives, and that's why people don't like public speaking, because they think, well, I can't be like that. Well, don't try. It's fine.
Yes.
Speak Ken, look, be authentic. He ahs a bit, but he has them there in the palm of his hand.
Absolutely fantastic. Brings up to a penultimate core question. What did you learn from your parents?
That's a really difficult one for me because it was not that was not a happy environment. So I was very happy to get my full grant and go to live in London. But what I would say, despite being someone who came to what I love in my 40s and later, is don't let where you start in life be where you end up. Don't let it dictate the path of your life. And too many people do. And I think I did for too long, not really thinking, and doing that whole thing of, I'm not good enough to, nobody, and because those messages go in, the messages we receive as children, they stay with us.
Yeah, that early conditioning and belief systems is powerful as well, not just at the early stage, but even currently. And that's why we need that encouragers, inspirers, and positive energies. Awesome. So, who or what are your inspirers? So, one is Ken Robinson that you did mention, but who are some of the other ones?
I mean, Ken Robinson, definitely. Comedy-wise, Victoria Wood was, my God. And I wonder, and that's one of the reasons why I gave up comedy when I was younger, because I thought I wanted to be the next Victoria Wood. And then I thought, why do we need another? We don't. And what the thing was to just push through that and try and find my own voice, which I didn't. I don't think that was a confidence thing in my 20s. But she so very much had a distinctive voice that was hers, that she pioneered. So, and she did comedy one-woman shows before people did that. So she led the way. So she is Ken Robinson. They are the people I watch and read all the time. So I would say they are very much inspirational people for me.
Fantastic. And just a quote that comes to mind based on what you were just sharing. So this week on LinkedIn, I've put a message up to say what's one of your favorite quotes at the moment. and somebody had shared that be yourself because everyone else is taken. And that's Oscar Wilde quote.
Wilde.
And that, I think, resonates with what you were just sharing, that, instead of trying to be Victoria Wood, be yourself, your authentic self, and that.
Absolutely. I think it was Dr. Seuss who said, nobody is youer than you. Just be you. It's yes. Don't compare yourself to somebody else. And I mean, we all do it, but it's not helpful, really.
Yes.
It's got to be, as you were saying about the happiness scale, it's not somebody else's scale, it's your scale.
Yeah, and it's your scale, and similarly, it's judging yourself on your own progress from where you are to where you move forward, and not comparing yourself to others. Exactly. Look at others, be inspired by others, but don't be dejected or put down by others. And that's, I think, one of the key messages that I'm trying to work with in sharing out Definitely. There. So be inspired by others, but be yourself. Awesome. So this is the surprise last question, which is there anything that we haven't asked you that you would like to answer or share?
I mean, I think that for me, the be yourself thing is such a big, be authentic and don't try to be perfect. That is, and that it's all a process. I mean, everything, we were talking before about, how we've all had to change what we do. Nobody thought this time last year we would be sitting here doing it. We've had to change what we do, and every single thing I've learned from. I'm rubbish at technology, but my goodness, I've had to pull my socks up over the past year, and just do it. And if you don't, and this is something that I have really, really had to learn, and I have to keep telling myself, you don't know, ask somebody, ask for help. And that was something that I would say probably for the first 30 years of my adult life, I never asked for help. I never said, oh, by the way, how do you do this thing? Because it never occurred to me that somebody would help.
Yes.
And now I've realized if you ask people, they're really nice, aren't they? People are really nice. They'll go, yeah, yes. I'll do it. People want to help.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm going to just share the screen again with everyone. And we're at the point now where a core session has finished. We have an opportunity for some questions and answers. So if you'd like to ask a question, please pop it in the chat, or let us know you want to ask something. But as you're thinking of some of your questions and any other possible feedback, I'm going to just invite Shandip from Balance Consultancy to say a few words, and then we'll roll on to the Q&A. Let's see. Great. So again, take the opportunity to say thank you so much, Shandip and Balance Consultancy, for sponsoring all of the series and the support you've given to Happy Life Habits over the last year and a bit, and coming on as a speaker in the previous episode. But yeah, if you would like to share a few words of why you've sponsored the series and supporting Happy Life Habits, that'd be great to hear.
Thank you, Shailene. First, congratulations, Mel, on your journey. Very, very inspiring. And this is what it's all about with Happy Life Habits. And actually, this is the reason why when Shailene approached me to say, look, without consider sponsoring, although Shailene's a very good friend of mine, nothing to do with that. I think the initiative, Shailene, you have put together, Inspiration Point, very much sits with me or my business. My Inspiration Point and Happy Life Habits is to do with people. My business, Balance Consultancy, is very much a people's business. I'm also very much a people's person. So it's almost, well, it just fitted in really, really nicely. It wasn't, you didn't have to do a convincing job or whatever. I think Happy Life Habits has helped lots of people over the last year since you've started the initiative, and nothing to do with COVID, lockdowns, anything like that. I think, Shailene, what you've started, I think, is needed. We've the whole world almost, become very materialistically orientated. We've lost that people's touch, and you've brought that back in. Normal human beings doing extraordinary things in their lives to turn their lives around, etc. And, strange things, but I deal with death every single day. Okay. And it's my work, and that's what I deal with. But what you've done with Inspiration Point, Happy Life Habits, it was a no-brainer, and it was a pleasure to be involved. That's all.
Thank you. No, I appreciate those encouraging words. It helps remind us what we're doing and why we're doing it. And again, I appreciate the support throughout, and not just from you, but from all of the community and many other people who've been involved. So really appreciate that. But thank you so much for sponsoring the full series.
Pleasure.
So that does lead us into, do you have any questions for Mel to kick us off on the Q&A?
Me?
Yeah. I give you first choice.
Mel, if it wasn't comedy, what else would you have done apart from writing?
Oh, not allowed to say writing. I'd always wanted to do kind of training of some sort. So, I mean, I'm a communicator. That's what I love doing. I think I probably would have been a good teacher, but I'm not sure I would have enjoyed it. I think I probably, do you know what? If I had my choice again, and I'd had the confidence at 20 that I have now, I think I would have wanted to present Woman's Hour.
Wow.
That's what, to be a radio, because it's talking, it's communicating, not television so much, but radio where I could talk to people. I think that's what I would have done.
You can still be Emma Barnett, that's fine.
She's younger than me, but that doesn't rule me out. Yes.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
Thank you, Shandip.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions they would like to ask?
I think Mandy put something in the chat box.
Oh, yeah. What or who makes you laugh, Mel?
Well, I mentioned Mandy, everybody already, Victoria Wood, who I absolutely love. And one thing I love about her is her comedy is a comedy of words. It's a comedy of wit. And I really like wit. I mean, I love reading things like P.G. Wodehouse and Noel Coward and Dorothy Parker. I love wit. I'm not so keen on physical comedy. People slipping under banana skins or, walking under ladders and so, because some old film comedy is based on that, which I don't really like. But I do love comedy of words and wit rather than physical comedy. There are some physical comedians who are very funny, but I'll think of one, but mainly it's words.
Excellent. Great. Thank you. Thank you for that question, and thank you for that answer. I'm just sharing
thank you.
On the screen. And so this is Mel's website, melbyron.com. Happy at Work with Mel Byron. So please do have a look at that to check out some of the resources on there, check out some of the services and some of the events which are happening. And she's also on Facebook and LinkedIn as well, and the links are available.
You can find me all over the place. The website is just being tarted up as we speak, so hopefully there'll be more stuff on there soon. Not so many events, obviously, as you can imagine these days, but we're still going to do it. Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay. I think Nina's asked a question, actually.
Okay. She said, "I've loved this podcast and left inspired. Thank you for that. My question is, what do you call an alligator in a vest?" An investigator.
You see, that's wit. That's wit.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nina, for that. So Thank you so much, Mel. I'll move on for the moment, and we'll come back and see if there are any more questions. But let me just move on for a moment. So, as you said, sponsored by Balance Consultancy. So, thank you so much for that. Our next the next 6 episodes, but the next week we've got Lisa Moore, Marathon Mindset. So that's on the 3rd of February next week, and Lisa, she ran the marathon, age 40, crossed the finish line, felt unfulfilled, felt empty, felt trapped, and soon after, left her marriage and took steps to change her life. So, and she's a fitness instructor now, as well as working in the mindset space. So she'll be sharing with us next week, and also the regional director of the Athena network, so networking and so forth. So all of the episodes, write-ups of the intros for the people are on the website. So you can have a look at happylifehabits.co.uk and see the write-ups of the following episodes coming, and you can book from there. The week after is Niraj Shah. He's my younger cousin. At the age of 30, he had a stroke and was fortunate to not be heavily debilitated from the stroke, and done mindset work and done physical work to strengthen back up, and now works in the arena of how technology and the mind work together, and shares some amazing stories and insights from his journeys along there. So that's the one on the 10th, and the full set available on the website. Thereafter, we've got Selena, ex-social mediator, Dr. Ajay, who is Niraj's brother, and as I mentioned, he went to during his A-levels, he was told he was going to get into med school, and now he's running one of the practices with a team of others in Birmingham, which is being put forward for a parliamentary award, and it was the first practice in Birmingham to give the COVID vaccine. So he's putting him, really people-focused medical person, and lots of great reviews of his service, of the way he serves people on a one-to-one basis is shared on their website and so forth. And then our final session of the series on the 3rd March is Nina, our life wala. So, and it's an extended session, because every time I've arranged a conversation with Nina for maybe 40 minutes, it's gone for well over an hour. So I know that final session will be running longer, so we've made it an extended version. And already we're working on series 3, and we have started to get people responding to the form and putting forward their answers to the 10 questions. And hopefully, I'm hoping that to happen soon after series 2 finishes, and this one being dedicated and focused on women. So celebrating International Women's Day and Mother's Day, which are around March. Hopefully we can launch then, but a series of 6 women sharing their journeys and turning points and daily habits and positivity in that manner. So that's the plan there. We're just finished, or coming to finish, our Happy Life Habits Gratitude and Journal Training course. Many of you have been on this course and benefited from it. Many of you may have heard of it or not heard of it, but it's a fantastic course, 30-day program, really helps with the mindset and building positivity into our lives. Waiting list is open for future sessions, so please feel free to look and ask if you're interested. And if you want to be part of the community, there's the newsletter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and the podcast and that we've recorded today will be put onto YouTube and podcast platforms in due course, and information will be shared over the social media sites and via the website to inform when they're available for you to rewatch and share with others. And if you've enjoyed today's podcast, do join us again next week. If you haven't got a VIP pass, feel free to request one. £20 for the whole lot, and you can invite a friend to come as a guest on any of the episodes. And if you would like to invite anyone next week, feel free to get in touch with me, give me their name, email address, and we can put them on the invite list. But I hope to see you all next week and for the rest of the series. And if you're interested, like I said, in taking part, get in touch. And thank you again, Mel, so much. Thank you all for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Mandy.
And we will see you all soon. Take care. Good night. God bless.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.